emergencies. When they still didn't leave the city, Justin Trudeau suspended democracy and declared Canada a dictatorship.
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act to supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations. The Emergencies Act will be used to strengthen and support law enforcement agencies at all levels across the country. This is about keeping Canadians safe, protecting people's jobs, and restoring confidence in our institutions.
So let's be clear, this is a defining moment in the history of Canada, in the history of the English-speaking West. The Emergencies Act is martial law. It has never been invoked in the history of that country. Now, by law, the Emergencies Act is allowed only in emergencies, in, quote, urgent and critical situations that seriously endanger the lives, health, or safety of Canadians. What's happening now does not qualify. What's happening in Canada now is not an emergency. Here's what it looked like this weekend. According to Justin Trudeau, everyone you saw in that tape is a terrorist, even the kids in their bouncy castles. Justin Trudeau has unilaterally revoked their civil liberties and authorized men with automatic weapons to haul them to jail. Trudeau was allowed for the arrest of this man, for example, making food for the terrorists.
From the sick feet, from the sick feet, from the sick feet.
So, again, all of these people can now be arrested on site simply because of where they're standing, but being arrested is the least of their problems. An arrest suggests bail. You can get out of jail. You can't get out of the country Justin Trudeau has just made. Under martial law, Trudeau now has the power to force banks to seize their bank accounts and insurance companies to cancel their insurance. That means they can't actually live in Canada anymore. They are non-persons. They're enemies of the state, and they will be crushed. At least one trucker knows exactly what's coming. He has seen it before. He came to Canada from Nicolae Ceausescu's Romania.
Why did only people meant to vote? Why 100 people, 180 or 200 people to decide your life for my or another? Let the Canadian people do it. No?
It's all corrupt too, all those people voting.
It's sad, man, when some people, they decide your life, like 300 people, they decide your life when you are 30 million.
Yeah.
Let us vote.
Crowdfunding and cryptocurrency under the Terrorist Financing Act. Really? So Justin Trudeau is now in charge of all of your finances. He's in charge of cryptocurrency? How does that work? And on what justification? And if that wasn't clear enough, Trudeau's minority government unilaterally just sent another $500 million to the authoritarian state of Ukraine, where the head of the rival political party is now under arrest and where opposition media has been banned.
Tonight we have a lot to get to, so let's dive right in. Speaking of freedom matters, the freedom problem. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, back in May of 2020, just a few months into the pandemic, the UN High Commissioner of Human Rights delivered what was actually a surprising warning.
When we restrict certain human rights because of a need like a natural cause or a pandemic like this one, it has to be, first of all, it has to be a clear need, it has to be proportionate to the need, and it has to have a time bound. It cannot be forever. We have seen that some governments are using it to to make even more shrink the civic space and the possibility of civil society to express, and that is unacceptable.
How prescient she was. 2 years later, with freedom convoys inspiring millions around the world, officials who thought they would never be held accountable are growing more desperate.
The Emergencies Act will be used to strengthen and support law enforcement agencies at all levels across the country. This is about keeping Canadians safe. These tools include strengthening their ability to impose fines or imprisonment. Financial institutions will be authorized or directed to render essential services to help address the situation by regulating and prohibiting the use of property to fund or support illegal blockades.
Such a soft, pretty man ever know about keeping anyone safe? Not much. Weak and ineffective leaders don't change course even when COVID recedes, because I've said for almost 2 years now, this was never about the virus. It was about creating a compliant public. A compliant public that was kind of primed to obey the next lockdown order, no questions asked. The assaults on our basic liberties have been wide-ranging. School closures denied children quality education. That was the freedom to learn. Vax and mask mandates deprived us of our freedom to decide what we put into our own bodies. Stay-at-home orders destroyed small businesses while large corporations thrived. That was our freedom to work. Then big tech censorship, where YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, they acted as proxy speech police for the government. Our freedom of expression. Anyone who didn't toe the Fauci line, even treating physicians and renowned researchers, were threatened. They were suspended, maligned, and even banned completely. Some lost their jobs. Calling something COVID misinformation gave the government carte blanche through their proxies to trample on free expression. Now, who will ever forget how Democrat governors let you shop together but not pray together? Churches shuttered, our freedom to worship halted. The experts never thought that faith was essential, but somehow they deemed that liquor stores were. So this anti-freedom coalition on the left even deployed intimidation squads in corporate and school settings with the goal of silencing employees and parents who spoke out. Now take this fascinating case of Jennifer Say. She was an Elizabeth Warren supporter from the
I love how people talk about personal freedom. If you're exercising personal freedom puts someone else in jeopardy, their health in jeopardy. I don't consider that being dealing with freedom.
Now, the mocking of freedom has been a thing of Biden's for a while now.
Two things that concern me. One are those who just try to make this a political issue. Freedom. I have the freedom to kill you with my COVID. No, I mean, come on. Freedom.
Never heard a president, never thought I would hear a president say something like that. And the media picks it up and then repeats it with their own lame flourish. Now the message is to be afraid of those who want freedom.
What you've seen in Canada is others are fearful of these protesters who are arguing for freedom.
Now sort of generically anti-government, all wrapped in this sort of notion or the guise of freedom, whatever that means to these individuals.
But freedom for the rest of you to do and speak your mind? No, they don't want that. Here's the way the progs at the CBC describe the word. It's malleable, and a term that thrives among far-right groups. Yet no matter the rubbish they say or publish about this freedom quest spreading across the globe now, the truth about what the powerful did these past 2 years is coming to the fore. It can't be that we live in a country where freedom only exists for the connected and wealthy, who can go maskless at the Super Bowl as third graders sweat it out in N95 masks in class in LA. But they'll always feel justified when they take away your freedom or when they skirt the rules. It's going to be that the roads are dangerous, the climate's warming, the variants are coming, and almost 6 years ago...
That's very true. They're working on that right now. They want to do these lockdowns and stuff like that because of climate, because of the weather. So they're going to do lockdowns because it's warm outside or because it's cold. Let's see who listens to that.
to be the biggest election and presidential spying scandal in the history of this great country. I'm going to go through this slowly because without a doubt, unequivocally, the Trump campaign, their transition team, even the Trump White House, meaning the president, was spied on by the Clinton campaign. It is far worse than what we have known till now, and we've reported on this now for 3 years. Now, thanks to a brand new filing from the special counsel, John Durham, we now know that the Clinton campaign paid a tech firm to infiltrate the servers at Trump Tower and then later infiltrate the servers at the Trump White House. In other words, illegally spying on a presidential candidate and later a president of the United States. Their end goal, fabricate evidence that President Trump was a Russian States. Their end goal, fabricate evidence that President Trump was a Russian asset or a Russian stooge of some kind. But make no mistake, this is far worse than Watergate. So let's go through this step by step. Let me refresh many people's memories. Maybe you don't have a reference point of Watergate. The Watergate scandal involved associates that were linked to the 1972 Nixon re-election campaign. These associates, they broke into DNC headquarters at Washington, D.C.'s Watergate office building. They stole campaign documents. They attempted to bug phones. In the end, 69 people were indicted, 48 people were convicted, and Richard Nixon ended up resigning in disgrace for his part in the cover-up of this. Now, of course, business is conducted a little differently in 1972 versus, 2016 when this all went down. In the age of the internet, you don't need to break into a building to steal your opponent's information. You just need access to their server. And that is exactly what the Clinton campaign did. But here's where this is even worse than Watergate. Not only did they hack into the opposing campaign and steal material, like in the case of Watergate, but then they hacked into the office of the president of this great country, according to Durham's blockbuster filing late Friday. Now, this is something maybe we would expect from Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, not an American political campaign. And clearly the Clinton machine was willing to do anything and everything, legal and illegal, to win an election. And when that didn't work, to then smear and destroy the guy that legitimately won that election. If this filing is accurate, it is all illegal. Everyone involved should go to jail, just like Watergate, except this is far worse. Don't take my word for it. Take a look at what Nancy Pelosi once had to say after the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee was hacked in a similar fashion by a foreign government, not by Republicans, in 2016. Take a look.
In terms of the presidential campaign, this is an electronic Watergate. This is an electronic Watergate. This is a break-in. This is a break-in. And I think that we have to recognize what is happening here. Now, who the Russians broke in, who did they give the information to? I don't know. Who dumped it? I don't know. But I do know that this is a Watergate-like electronic break-in.
Oh, Nancy's right that Hillary Clinton's campaign was involved in electronic Watergate. But now, surprise, surprise, Nancy is totally, completely, utterly silent about Durham's revelations. So is the Biden administration. Now, the executive office of the president was surveilled, but the White House can't be bothered to answer one single question about it. Maybe that's because Biden's national security advisor, that guy right there, Jake Sullivan, he is at the center of this entire scandal. And here's where the story takes yet another turn. Stay with us. After infiltrating the servers at the Trump Tower and the executive office of the president and spying on her opponent and then the president, the Clinton campaign found no evidence in any form or fashion that Trump was a Russian asset. So they just fabricated all of this out of thin air. Jake Sullivan was a senior policy advisor for Hillary Clinton in 2016, propagated a bogus story about Trump's secret line to Russia. Naturally, Sullivan's wife, just to make it even more interesting, works for the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, who oversees the Durham probe. She would need to recuse herself. He would need to recuse her immediately. She should have done this on day one. Republicans need to demand that the AG in this case takes her off anything involving the Durham investigation immediately. Jake Sullivan, he needs to now answer questions about his role in the Clinton campaign's illicit activities as of now. In other words, what did he know? What did Hillary know? When did they know it? Now, Mitch McConnell, by the way, where are you in all this? Is spying on a president and presidential candidates? Is it okay with everybody in Washington? Think about what we knew before this filing of John Durham and what we've known for a long time and what we spent nearly 3 years investigating right here on this show. We knew about Christopher Steele's debunked, dirty Russian misinformation dossier bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton. And, of course, the money was funneled through a law firm, Perkins Coie, and Fusion GPS, and they hire Christopher Steele. We told you that story a million times. The FBI then used that material as the basis for the Russia witch hunt. And by the way, to do that, the top of a FISA warrant says verified. We now know it's totally debunked. None of it was true. It was all unverifiable. When they found out it was unverified, they still continue to use Hillary's dirty Russian dossier. The FISA warrants against the Trump campaign associate, Carter Page. Guess what? They did it all. This is even worse than all of that. According to Andrew McCabe, if there's no dossier, there would be no FISA warrant granted. Now we know that Hillary Clinton and her campaign was spying on Donald Trump's internet activity. As a matter of fact, the entire Trump Tower, the entire White House, as a candidate, and by the way, now as president. That too was bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton's attorneys. And when they came up empty, Jake Sullivan was more than happy to disseminate unverified rumors and conspiracy theories as fact. In other words, President Trump, he was right the whole time. This might remind you.
So
the biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign. They spied on my campaign.
Well, there's no real evidence of that.
Of course there is.
No.
It's all over the place. Leslie,
Sir,
they spied on my campaign and they got caught.
Can I say something? You know, this is 60 Minutes. And we can't put on things we can't verify.
You won't put it on because it's bad for Biden.
We can't put on things we can't verify.
Leslie, they spied on my campaign.
Well, we can't verify
It's been totally verified.
No.
It's been, just go down and get the papers.
No.
They spied on my campaign. They got caught.
No.
And then they went much further than that, and they got caught. And you will see that, Leslie. And you know that, but you just don't want to put it on the air.
As a matter of fact, I don't know that.
Okay.
Leslie, now you do. So now you can go on 60 Minutes on Sunday and issue an apology. We'll be waiting for that. I doubt they even cover the story. And by the way, the same goes for fake news CNN. They spent 3 years lying to the American people. MSDNC, by the way, probably a very convenient time for the conspiracy theorist of all time, Rachel Maddow, to be on, quote, leave. You know what? They gave more time to this than any other story. 3 years of the Trump presidency. And you'd think they would spend a minute and inform their viewers that they were wrong the entire time and update them on this new development? Where's Bob Woodward? Where's Bernstein, Carl Bernstein? Anyway, remember they once cared about, quote, journalism? Through their top secret source, Deep Throat, they broke the Watergate story wide open. Now they are nowhere to be found. And apparently, you know, for them, politics is much more important than, quote, journalism. Now, the reason the media will ignore this story that is bigger than Watergate is because they are accomplices the entire time. They have lied the entire time. They advanced their propaganda almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they did it for over 3 years. They knew and they know the dossier was a lie, but their hatred of Donald Trump was more important than the truth. Yep. They have never set the record straight. They never made a correction. They never admitted that they were wrong. The New York Times, the Washington Post, they got Pulitzers for false stories. Maggie, it's time to return it. And by the way, what about the congenital liar Adam Schiff? He sits on the January 6th committee, and they said campaign rhetoric and talk about elections has brought us to this point. Okay, Adam Schiff, or, you know, whatever we want to call you, the congenital liar, if you really care about election interference, is it okay when Hillary Clinton does it? Because Adam Schiff on that January 6th committee is the biggest purveyor of election fraud lies ever. He's going to be critical of Donald Trump. We need an investigation into him. And thankfully, Durham doesn't take orders from Schiff or fake news CNN or anyone else in the media mob. John Durham, he's been taken forever, But he's supposedly looking for the truth, and he's given us a window into what he's finding. And to that end, according to FoxNews.com, his probe is accelerating, more people are cooperating, and testifying before a grand jury. I can't predict what Durham will ultimately find. Nobody's been held accountable for the lies they made to the FISA court, that we know they made lies. They knew they were lying. But I do know that as of now, all roads lead back to one person and one campaign. That's Hillary Clinton and her campaign. And I hope one day very soon, her campaign will be held accountable for the worst political spying scandal in the history of this country.